The first question I want to ask you, because so much of your content right now that you're creating here at Granity is aimed at helping young people, aimed at helping children. And as a father of 4 girls, I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself by being a father?
It's amazing. Like when you become a parent, things become much more, life becomes, it lines things up for you a little differently, right? Like before you have kids, me and my wife, we can travel anytime. There's work and, you become you have a very clear focus. When you have children, it becomes about them. It's not about you guys anymore, right? And so that shift, it's a big one. It's one of kind of a selfishness together, and then to being absolutely selfless and doing anything you can for your kids. And so what I'm trying to do is create content to teach them first and foremost. That's why I started this whole thing, is just reading stories to them that I felt like didn't exist. Our kids are athletes, and they love reading about princesses and all these fairy tales. And, they get a little sick and tired about the man saving the princess every time. And, the same old stuff, the magical wands and all that. My kids are athletes, man. They want to learn about soccer balls and basketballs and volleyballs and, magic that comes from that.
Yeah, and I love that you're encouraging young people to think more imaginatively about sports.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you go a step deeper. For me, observing you and learning about you and hearing you speak in other interviews and everything, what I'm fascinated by is that you've dealt with things in life pretty head on. Mm-hmm. Right? You've always gone at it. What took you a while? What was something in your life that you were shy about originally, or that took you a while to go head on with, but then finally you got there and you figured it out?
Writing Dear Basketball. That was a hard jump, because I'd written before. I started writing probably about 17 years ago. And so practicing every day, a lot of things that I wrote were ads. And so when you write an ad, nobody looks up at who wrote the ad, right? You can there's a certain anonymity that comes along with that, right? But writing Dear Basketball was different. It's putting it out there for the world to see. It's trying to create a short film. And I didn't know if I could do it, man. And, it was my daughter who kind of put things in perspective for me, Gianna. She's now 13. And she was like, well, you always tell us to go for it. So...
She put you on the spot.
Yeah, she put me on the spot. She was like, you going to talk about it? You going to be about it, basically. And, and that gave me the final push.
I love that. When you started writing 17 years ago, did you envision that one day you would move into this storytelling space, or was it just something you enjoyed at the time?
No, man. It was just something I enjoyed, and I enjoyed writing ads. It was something funny about trying to distill a message down into 30 seconds or a minute, depending on the budget. You know what I mean? Trying to say something important, trying to speak to the brand attributes, but also speak to something that's greater and that has a stronger message, stronger philosophical message. And how do you connect those dots? So putting that puzzle together was something that was really intriguing.
Yeah.
But I never thought I'd be writing novels or movies and that sort of stuff. Never, man.
I love that, man. I love it how everything evolves naturally. And actually hearing you say that, it reminds me. So my vision when I was sharing earlier became very clearly making wisdom go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I take these teachings that are like so sacred, they're hidden away in these books,
mm-hmm.
and how do I make them really relevant and accessible and practical to the whole world?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that anyone can access them. They're universal, right? These teachings can apply to anyone, but sometimes they're just hidden away.
Sure.
And a young person doesn't know how to find them. So that inspires me hearing them.
That's beautiful too, because especially in today's world, there's so much clutter. It becomes harder for kids to try to weave through a lot of the crap that's out there to find stuff that's actually beneficial to them.
Yeah, I think you reminded me, I think E.O. Wilson said, we're drowning in information, starving for wisdom.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Especially, and that's why I think your work is cutting through, because I think what you've managed to do with your new work is that you're finding ways to connect with what people care about, but you're taking it a step deeper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not just settling for let's talk about sports. It's not just about sports. It's about life, right?
It's about the metaphor that sports has for life. I mean, sports is the greatest metaphor we have in terms of dealing with life. Because, even if you listen to music will give you guidance, right? That you can then meditate on and think about how you would apply it. In sports, you have to apply it in the here and now. I mean, you're faced with challenges moment to moment. You're faced with pressures and anxiety and communication or the lack thereof and all this other stuff. Like, it's in the moment. So you have to live it. And when you practice those things, you become better at it. But I just feel like in this day and age, our children have become less imaginative about how to problem solve, and parents and coaches have become more directive in trying to mandate or give orders or teach kids how to think and teach kids how to behave versus and tell them how to behave versus teaching them how to behave. And so that's why I'm creating these stories and creating this content.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so true. When you treat people as kids, then they always be kids,
Right.
even when they grow up.
Yeah.
And for you, it was really powerful because you've talked about this before, where your father said to you, like, whether you score 0 or 60,
Yeah.
like, I love you.
Yeah.
Tell me what that statement meant to you at that time, and how did it actually motivate you to continue scoring 60 rather than go, oh, I'm all right at 0?
Well, it did more than that, right? So like the basketball stuff speaks for itself in terms of what that comment did for me in terms of giving me stability and giving me confidence to say, okay, it's okay to fail because you're going to be loved no matter what. And that doesn't just mean basketball. That means anything in life. Yeah, that means writing. That means being an entrepreneur. That means having the confidence to go for it. And I've seen too many parents do the exact opposite. And it terrifies children. And children become paralyzed by their own fear because they don't have that security blanket of love and comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you been able to, in your life, see past the cloud of emotion to actually execute on things? Because I think what we were speaking about earlier, this challenge that young people have today, everyone has today, of just so much information, so much cloud of emotion, so many feelings, so much childhood baggage that you're bringing. Like, how have you always cut through that and execute on that?
What I try to do is just try to be still and understand that things come and go, emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all, to embrace them all. And then you can choose to do with them what you want versus being controlled by emotion. A lot of times I've seen players, even myself, when I was younger, being consumed by a particular fear. And to the point where you're saying, okay, it's not good to feel fear. I shouldn't be nervous in a situation like that. And it does nothing but grow. Versus stepping back and saying, yeah, I am nervous about the situation. Yeah, I am fearful about the situation. Well, what am I afraid of? And then you kind of unpack it. And then it gives you the ability to look at it for really what it is, which is nothing more than your imagination running its course,
Yeah, absolutely.